How do you define learning?
There is a difference between learning and training. You know, I think that training is really more of teaching a skill that you want people to be able to do when they walk out of the room or after they go through a virtual activity. I think with the learning, it's not necessarily like, here's the book and here's the steps and here's what I need you to do when you leave here. It's also around trial and error. It's also around relationships that you build. It's also around mistakes that you make. And how do you recover from those mistakes? And what would you do differently? You know, so it's kind of taking the look back and saying, okay, what did I learn from that? You know, somebody actually just asked me recently, is there anything you would do differently? You know, from a work perspective, you know, if you were looking back on, you know, your career, is there anything you would do differently? And, you know, I think everyone always has some things. You know, I probably would have, you know, taken this project differently. I probably would have told this person these things. You know, there's always like some things that you could do or you could say, but I think that learning is also being open. You know, I mean, when I first started working in learning and development, I was very regimented, very set in my ways, very, we've got stuff we've got to get done, it's got to get done by this date, and I did not like when there would be a hiccup in the schedule. I was not fun to be around, my staff would run away, it was not fun. Over the years, I started to realize, A, there's not only one way to get things done, there's many different ways, and I think that it was learned behavior for me, because it was not natural, to be more flexible, to be more open, to listen more to others. Now, I don't always agree, and sometimes we get we're going to agree to disagree, or I wouldn't do it that way, I still don't think that's the way to go, but I'm willing to try it now. I've always hired people who were opposite style of myself, which people thought I was crazy. They're like, why wouldn't you just hire people just like you, because make your job a lot easier. I'm not looking for clones. I'm looking for people who are going to challenge me, who are going to push me, and sometimes it does drive me crazy, but there are blind spots that I know that I have, and the only way for me to learn is to bring people in who have strengths in those areas so that they can challenge me, they can bring different things to the table so that I can learn from them too. So I think it's you know, it's about being open and flexible, and I think it's that you can learn from so many different things. It's not just the formal e-learning or virtual classroom or webinar or instructor-led class. Like, that's what people see as traditional training, and I think the push has been much more towards talent development and towards organizational development, and not necessarily is that, you know, going to be an agenda with 6 checkpoints of what you need to learn. It's sometimes just getting people together in a room to build relationships. You know, have a drink, or, you know, let's do a book discussion, or, you know, let's get people together for a party. You know, and that sometimes is where people learn to depend on each other, learn to reduce conflicts, learn to work together and build relationships.